All right, folks, welcome. Welcome to my channel. I've been wanting to talk to you folks. There's a lot going on. I really don't know where to start. I got a lot that I'd like to go into, but there's been a lot of going on, and there's something that really bothers me that I don't even know how to go to, but what I'd like to do is just explore where all the stuff takes me, like where I go and what I do, and then you follow me. Does that make sense? Like we'll just kind of meander because I don't always know what it is I'm figuring out. So what I'd like to do is just kind of go where my senses are telling me to follow and then see how it all comes like swirling together. All right. So fault lines are coming up. The solar eclipse just came up. Grimes warning is coming up. Kate Gates coming up. Aleister Crowley, Church of Satan, Illuminati, aliens, like Anunnaki is coming up. And then like Tesla is coming up. So just a lot, and it's all swirling together at the same time. It's a little bit overwhelming. Then you got ghosts popping in and giving their 2 cents. They want their deaths recognized. And I just say, all right, we'll make space for your death to be recognized. All right. So here we go. Let's start with where the ghosts are pointing Madam Mitzvah. All right. Well, it's all over the place, like I just said. So I just think let's be prepared for the dots not appearing to be connecting, but like really they are connecting. All right. So here we go. I just want to think about this kind of stuff for a minute. Let's think about the party supply store theory, right? So remember the Middletons, right? They're like being publicly humiliated because they owe a bunch of money, right? Well, why is William letting them like fail for like 3 million or something when he's got like billions and could give them a bunch of money? It just don't make sense unless he wants their reputation tarnished, or maybe they're going down, their whole business is going down. And then the more I get into these little different like sex like circuits or whatever, like trafficking or whatever, I get into this place of like, well, is everything related to kids? Like, should we look at that differently now? And then, like, maybe the UK is getting their sex circuit busted, and the Middleton's going down is like part of that. So William's like got to distance himself from like the whole family. Um, I do sense like the Rose getting pregnant again rumor. I get that that is accurate. I do get that he was plotting to get rid of Kate in some way. Maybe it had to do with the sex trafficking circles getting busted, or maybe he just was ready to be with Rose, or it was Rose getting pregnant. Like, I don't know. But then we have in 2023, and I encourage you guys to go look at that. In 2023, the jewels that go missing, like Kate was the last person to have about $80 million in jewels. So I would like someone to do some homework and look into that. Then in Christmas, we see her like that's the last time. I had asked folks to look into whether AI was used in any of those photos from Christmas, because in some photos she looks miserable. And then in other photos, she don't look miserable. So I'm just like hoping I can figure it out, like which one is AI and which is like the truth. So someone could look into those Christmas photos. That would be rad. I just think that some of those photos might have been doctored, is my sense of things. So Kate was looking worried at that Christmas service when you see the real, like real photos, the real up-to-date photos of her face, like when she's relaxed inside the church, there's some where she's looking particularly worried. So we ask ourselves why, right? Why is she worried? All right. And then it's been Christmas 2023 since we've seen her and the kids, right? I'm not counting that AI video. So nothing makes sense since then, right? Nothing makes sense, but let's see here. No one is reporting the truth. and no one seems to be seeing the missing kids. So I'm wondering if something, I'm just putting this out there and you tell me what you think. Um, let's see here. What is it? ELF, which is like electromagnetic low frequencies. It's used to like dumb people down. I had talked in a previous thing about that. I think it's like DARPA and using technology related to Tesla, and maybe that's why people are so apathetic. But I just would like folks to do some research into that, because I'm just wondering, like, this timeline doesn't add up. I think most people would have their thinking caps on, and then I have to ask myself, like, why don't people have their thinking caps on? Why don't they care that no one has seen the children or her since Christmas, right? So then I have to ask myself, there's something else going on that's making people not be curious. Right. So this was just some article about the jewelry missing that I had just mentioned, that 80 million pounds rather worth of gifted jewelry not being held. Last person to be wearing it was the princess. So you guys just look into that, the missing jewels 2023, right? I think that was around July, I said. All right. So I get the feeling she took the jewels. That part resonates. Yes. She did have an exit plan, but I think that she wasn't expecting him to attack her and the kids. I think that that came out of nowhere. I don't think that that was planned. Um, So basically, what I'm saying here is that from July 2023 to current, Kate was showing up more with her injured fingers, but William didn't take her out and the kids over the jewels. He lost control because he's mentally ill and he was trained to be a killer like Philip, but he had been working to get her out, right? But her family was starting to fall. Her family was starting to fall because his agenda was to tarnish her image, right? Link her with that racism, but he lost control and now continues to push his hiding and trying to dupe the public, but he's cracking. And the press can only take part in the murder of Kate and her children for so long. So I'm saying what I keep telling everyone is watch the advances with Simon in Australia, the supposed son of Charles and Camilla. Simon will finally get help for his cause to prove his parents, and Charles will pressure William to abdicate while saving face, and he will not be held accountable for these murders. The public will have amnesia. I told you those electromagnetic frequencies I just mentioned, what I call them. Let's see, ELF, electro magnetic low frequency, I think is what's being used to create this amnesia, right? And they're going to forget about Princess Kate or forget about like that something was done to her that was wrong. It's just crazy, right? We're just living in crazy times. Because no one does nothing. And then she'll be erased like so many before her, and the public will be held accountable in the cosmic court of law. But I now disagree with myself, because now that I think it has something to do with those electromagnetic low frequencies, I now don't think that the public will be held accountable in the cosmic court of law in the same way. Does that make sense? All right. So missing jewels. Madam Mitzpah says Kate took the jewels. She was going to get out, get help. She was going to secure safety. She knew he was going to get rid of her, but the kids, and the kids, yeah, that's what I sense. All right. And now we're going to like skip over, even though it doesn't seem connected, right? That there's like UFO activity and things being cloaked. I would look up WikiLeaks and Anunnaki. There is some crazy stuff about like cloaked ships in our atmosphere, and like they all know about it, and some kind of crop circle warning about something that's going to affect us and give us radiation, and they were trying to help us. So just look up Anunnaki and WikiLeaks, right, to find that memo. But anyway, some folks are saying like Nibiru, the 10th planet or whatever, that they're coming back, and there are creators, you know. So if you look at ancient tablets and stuff with the Sumerians, they had like these giant gods that they said came from the stars, right? And that would be the Anunnaki, right? And this all connects, even though it doesn't seem like it does, but there's some good information out there. The Y files on YouTube, they've got some good information related to the Anunnaki, but like basically they were kind of like our creators in a sense. And then there's like this Nibiru thing coming, and maybe that's what everyone's preparing for with like bunkers and stuff. But anyway, this is all just kind of like general proof about like how these folks just popped up out of nowhere, and they just went from being like Cro-Magnon monkeys to having like math and science and courts of law and the wheel and the plow and so forth. So the people of Sumer were advanced for their time. A clay tablet translated in 2015 shows the ancient astronomers made extremely accurate mathematical calculations for the orbit of Jupiter, a full 1400 years before Europeans did. And then they may also have created trigonometry 1,000 years before the ancient Greeks. So these were in advanced people because they had information, because they were being they came from this training they received, right? And then this was an article about how like Queen Nefertiti was like potentially an alien. Just something to look into when you have time, but just this somehow relates also with like just the idea that we are alien connected. So let's see here. This is about Planet Nine, how some planets like they aren't even considering cloaking devices, but like that some people are still saying that Planet Nine is out there. But anyway, this all leads to, right, if Planet Nine did swing by in like a real short time, let's say it was cloaked or something crazy, you're still going to have like earthquakes, right? And what we had with that recent solar eclipse was a highlighting of that New Madrid fault line. And so some folks are suggesting there will be earthquakes. I'm sensing California for some reason, as well as the New Madrid fault line, like earthquakes in both areas, a tsunami in California, like all within 3 months, right? But I'm sensing an earthquake along that New Madrid fault line, like a lot of earthquakes. So I think there might be a warning from the universe when there's this intersection of eclipse paths. I think that there might be something that we get warned about that has to do with that. And then like maybe the elite know about it, but there is a fault line there where the eclipse path was. And then this is just all about the pressure of the plates and how a rupture can happen at any moment. So folks are even saying now they're seeing a lot of activity right in that area. Now, some folks were saying because the newspapers were putting out this massive human sacrifice event thing, they try to harness the power of things with their spells using spelling that they put in the newspapers and magazines and online, that those words add up to a certain energetic frequency, and also they gain power like Satanists to do their spell in like plain sight and talk about it. But I actually think this might be a natural event that they're trying to harness the power of. So they are trying to speak over it and kind of claim that energy for themselves by putting that article out there. I think this might be a catastrophe for humans no matter what, like a natural disaster that we are being warned about, that they know about. Does that make sense? All right. So this is kind of like what would happen for that area. We're not even considering California in that picture, but you can see that wider area of what happens after like an area of a 6.6 magnitude event. Oh no, this is the last time it happened and the impact area, but that was the largest occurrence of earthquakes in our country's history. And so this is another thing talking about the New Madrid fault line, talking about that earthquake that happened in 1811. The eclipse rather, or one of those dates has to do with that 1811 earthquake and the crisscross of the solar eclipses. So another thing I want to harken back to, now this is going to take us back in this photograph to what Edgar Casey had said about how there was going to be a catastrophic like pole reversal. And he had said that we are going to have that happen like after those two volcanoes go off in Italy. And this is one of those volcanoes. I believe the other one is active. Feel free to let me know if it's not. But I think this is the one that just became more active and supposedly, and I have not been able to track down the source of this, you have 90 days to clear the coasts from the time that the second one or the third one becomes active. Excuse me. I'm just commenting on this because I don't even know about all that. Like, I don't even know if that's true. I don't even know if I subscribe to that. I feel imminent harm coming to California, like I mentioned, but I don't know if we have 90 days. It could be more like 60 days. I don't know. I'm just different things are coming up for me there, but definitely feeling like I just mentioned the earthquakes in that area within 2 to 3 months that we just spoke about. And then the other one would be California. But anyway, so what resonates with me here is that the earth is sending you a message with these circles. For me, it's a pay attention message. Like, I got an important thing to tell you. I'm sending you something with a symbol that I can create naturally. It takes a lot of energy for the earth to try to send us a signal that we understand in our language. So I feel like the earth is saying, hello, this matters, this matters. And like, for me, that's saying, okay, that means like you need to clear the coast, right? And all you can do is tell those you love, like what your sense is, right? But you know, that's all you can do. This is my bet of what we're gonna look, things would look like probably after the like tsunami falls back. So that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be protected from water if it's smashing down or if it's flooded at first, but this would be kind of like the map of what it would look like after like the pole shift or whatever. Um, so I think we don't need to argue about what's going to happen. I'm just saying this map resonates. So I just want you to go ahead and look at it. Could be that I'm wrong, could be any psychic is wrong, but that's the map that resonates for me. So just look at what's left. All right, now this is very interesting. I encourage you to go check this out. So, yeah, if you look at Grimes' Instagram from like right before COVID, it's almost like she knew about COVID before it happened because she released a video called Violence, I think. And I think in that was the video that she had a bunch of like people in masks and social distancing and stuff. And so she had this like tablet that she put out there, like a stone tablet, and the stone tablet seemed to be talking about like a COVID vaccination or like COVID and gene splicing. and editing like something, right? And it has to do with aliens. And she's like letting us know, right? So it's very interesting, like how it all like came about, and just something to look into and think about what it means, right? So, it seems like chains on humanity in some regard, but then like who's doing this to us? And then it seems like when you get to the tablet that she's got this part here that is the eclipse that just happened. Then she's got some exclamation points, and this is still on her Instagram. Then she's got the dragon, year of the dragon, and then there's a flower that is supposedly like a flower from a Chinese holiday. It's supposed to mean the day of the eclipse in that year, right? Like the year of the dragon, the solar eclipse, and then that Chinese year. Day of that holiday, which was yesterday for the solar eclipse. So I feel like she's saying it all kind of accumulates there, like something big is happening and it all accumulates there. Now, maybe it's 3 months out, but whatever happened, like sealed the deal. And then she's telling us, like, sorry, like bad things are happening. Like she's warning us. Someone made a bunch of money. Someone had an idea. I don't know. All right. Yeah, so this was about that DNA splicing and editing I was just talking about. This was about her music thing, violence, and like what did she know? Because this was way before COVID came about. So another thing I wanted to talk about was this person that was saying that the Russians had so much information. So maybe the Russians still have that information on us, that we were taken over by extraterrestrials in 1945. Well, if you go and research Eisenhower and his great granddaughter, she says, Laura Eisenhower, that he signed a contract to let humans get abducted and things like that with like the bad aliens in 1945, but that there were some other good aliens that told him, like, don't sign a contract with the bad aliens. So maybe some good aliens are like trying to help us now to get out from under those bad aliens and that bad contract and stuff, because now we're seeing like the breaking up of the sex pedophile rings and stuff like that in Hollywood. So that makes me think something is happening, because like those people like control the world and they're all connected. So maybe the bad aliens are like getting their asses handed to them by someone. Just a thought. All right. So this is Aleister Crowley. If you don't know him, look him up. I think he started that whole Church of Satan in Hollywood that they all subscribe to, where they kill chickens and worship Moloch or something. But he's also like with the Skull and Bones. So I just think it's all connected, like masonry or like whatever. CERN maybe is like using something to open up different dimensions, or like summon in Baphomet or some craziness, right? So yeah, they were talking about how AI was inside CERN because it was being channeled there using Aleister Crowley's like relationship with like a deity or something. Very interesting stuff in terms of what's happening right now. I do find it curious that they're trying to create the third temple with those heifers, right, in Israel. I feel like they know what's up because they have Isaac Newton's papers on alchemy. If you want to research Isaac Newton, he was real deep on gematria, and he seemed to know something because, like, he spent the majority of the latter part of his life, the most important part of his life, he spent on gematria and Armageddon, of what's like going to happen, and like end of days, and like how it's all in the Bible, like the Old Testament. I think it's very interesting that it ended up with Jewish folks in Israel, who I feel like he had some kind of connection. Isaac Newton did to Hebrew and all kinds of other stuff. So that's a very interesting thing to look into. Anyway, I don't know what I was meaning by that tangent, but Okay, so as I was doing the work I do, right, you guys know all of a sudden ghosts will just pop up on me. Stephen Bing and his girlfriend, right? Crazy story. She was trying to get him to divulge information about the Clintons and Epstein because he knew a bunch of things that was going to incriminate the Clintons. And then their deaths got covered up in a really sad way. Like, first, they killed her, right? She overdosed on a Xanax pill that was really laced with fentanyl. That's called poisoning, right? So she was dead. And I think they said to him, like, we're gonna kill you. Oh, he sent her to a friend's house, right? None of that is good. None of that's good. So basically, it's a tragic thing that the universe wants me to point out, try to help these folks, give them justice. But anyway, I think Elizabeth Hurley had something to do with it. But because Elizabeth Hurley is connected to Epstein, and maybe she's connected with like the sex pedophile satanic ring. I mean, I guess they all are, but some more than others. Anyway, I think she had something to do with it. So this woman was murdered, his girlfriend on purpose, and then he supposedly threw himself from a building at 55 because he was isolated during lockdown, and they thought that was crazy. He was a billionaire, and then all of a sudden they kind of like spent all his money. They probably just kept him locked up for a year to make it look like he was still alive and had people visit him, but he was like in, like the elite have like their own jail for each other. So he might have been like in jail for like a year, and they had him spend all his money, but really he wasn't in control. So then they said he killed himself because he spent all his money. I don't know. I would be interested in seeing, here's my homework, how much time he was seen in public that was not AI from the time that his girlfriend had the overdose, right? So somehow this all connects. I don't know how. When they throw me this information, I'm always like, oh, okay, it's a lot to take on, and that wasn't where I was looking, but somehow, um, yeah. So what did he know? The girlfriend was saying that her niece, I mean, the niece was urging Mr. Bing to talk about what he knew about the Epstein stuff and Clinton and all that. And then they weren't close, but she convinced Steve to make a statement, and then he fell to his death, and she died of an overdose. So they were just taken out. No one wanted them talking. Yeah, so none of this resonates. None of this resonates. I think they just took them out. So I don't know. Let's just do a moment of saying something, some kind words that we're sorry that you got taken out of this world. All right, moving on. So the chicken thing seems to be a big thing. They all have like pictures with like the chicken to show that they are part of whatever they need to do, which is slaughtering chickens or raping babies or just whatever you got to do, right? And I had thought that Bieber got away, but then I found out that he had gotten kind of like roped in with like the missus, the woman he's married to, so that I think she's his handler or something. Because I said I heard that he had a big video he put out exposing things, and then he took it back, and then he made more posts on his like Instagram or something with like babies spreading their legs and doing like nasty stuff and showing like kids in a sexual way, and then made a song called Yummy and stuff like that. So folks were pointing out to me like, oh no, he's totally gotten roped back in and had to take down that video exposing them, and he's got a handler now, and so Haley supposedly, is like his handler, and so he's back to like posting pictures of kids and that kind of thing. So I have not done the research myself. Feel free to do the research. But I just think once you're like stuck in the cult, it's really hard to get out. All the horrible things they've done to Kanye. So this is all about how people use black magic. We've talked about that. Kanye, Beyonce, Jay-Z, all this black magic people use. And then the former member of Beyonce's band was also accusing her of black magic, right? So I think what folks don't understand is that magic is real. I think that's the hard thing that like our culture like can't comprehend, and that human sacrifice, and like Moloch was like a god or a demon or an entity that was okay with human sacrifice. So that child sacrifice rather. So I think that's what that like Hollywood culture is about, that like all about Moloch. But then like Democrats go there too. So like I think it's pretty much everyone maybe in the top, like I don't know, 10% or something of the world, they all sacrifice babies or something. Because I just watched a video on how many children go missing every year. It's insane. And what that guy I was listening to was saying was that they create babies that have no birth certificate. And then he had like a video on how you can go and find these babies on the dark web. And anyway, he showed us how you go and people like find this information and are part of like this subculture, and it's just like in plain sight and no one does nothing. It's just scary, right? Just scary to realize. All right. So this is stuff about like the rapes that Corey had talked about. Corey Fieldman and Corey Haim had talked about being raped in Hollywood, and like how little boys are raped and stuff like that. And this is talking again about the witchcraft that's like active in Hollywood. This guy was the Walt Disney vice president who had raped a 7-year-old, and I think he went to prison for 7 years, but like the media did not cover it. But then supposedly, like you go down into the whole of pedophilia symbols, then you have these symbols which mean pedophilia, and they're like everywhere. It is crazy. So, yeah, the other thing I wanted to report on real quick is like in regards to these triangle symbols, they're literally on the Pope's like clothing. If you look at his clothing on like National Children's Day or something, so it's kind of like the church is maybe not, maybe was not always, but now the church is all about the pedophilia, because you'll find that triangle and that circle symbol on different things for like the church, but also things like Disney and stuff like that. Then you'll also find it for like a sheriff in a town, like the symbol on the star for the sheriff. Like if you look closely and zoom in on the sheriff's like star, it'll show you, it'll have that symbol. So I think folks don't always know what the symbol represents, and it's part of their like production or their thing. So there's always going to be good people that don't even know what the symbol represents or why it's there. But it's kind of like a club for like, you should just be looking for these symbols everywhere. They just seem to be everywhere in our society. But then it makes me think for a second, like, why is all this stuff coming out about Diddy, right? Why is all this stuff coming out about like this culture of what's happening in the Satanism behind the scenes and stuff? Why is it all coming out? That shows me someone's strong enough to fight them. Someone's strong enough to get that information out there. So I don't know what's happening, but it's revolutionary. Um, so I was thinking maybe some of these folks are just getting more and more nervous because there's supposedly like a bunch of people, about 200 people that were tracked at Jeffrey Epstein's island. So that could be like anonymous or some kind of like really like moral hacker or something who's like super smart, like a hacker that is super smart. And maybe they had that information, right? The hacker, right? Excuse me, and they're holding it over these people's heads, and then they're gonna like release it, and so everyone's getting ready for the drop. Excuse me. I don't know, maybe Diddy did a deal and he's making it look like he's gonna go down, then he'll get killed in prison like Epstein, and then he'll get allowed to go out and get a new life, you know. So I'm just wondering if this all comes down to yeah, like I don't know, maybe Diddy turned on all these people because someone's going to expose them and everyone's going to get exposed. And maybe the hacker said they're going to do it no matter what. So now the government finally has to do their job, like the feds that have always been in on it and protecting the church and protecting the Hollywood and protecting the music industry and satanic, like sex trafficking of children. Like, I don't know, something is going on. So maybe something having to do with that data collection. All right. So this is more about the data collection and just also linking it with the Bidens, because like Ghislaine Maxwell had a submarine that bopped around between these islands. So go ahead and research, like, I don't know. I find a lot of that stuff scrubbed now about nowadays, but like, I don't know. Go ahead and look into Ghislaine Maxwell's submarine and the Bidens having some property near Epstein's Island, even if it's through his brother. So I just want to talk about the fact that like psychic stuff is real. Psychics, the stuff they see is real. Not always, but like some folks have a real gift. I think what happened is that we were on Mars and or a version of us or something. It could be like maybe the predecessor to us, like maybe we're like the 2.0 or something, but whatever was on Mars, like I think is related to us, and that they were on Mars, but um I think an asteroid destroyed that, and so they had to go somewhere else maybe. I don't know, some stuff's coming in there, but still trying to figure it out. Either way, we were on Mars, or relatives of us or predecessors of us at some point were on Mars, but um there were 10-foot humanoids on Mars. Um so it sounds like they had to run away for some reason. Um yeah, so that got hit. Oh, they were on Mars and they were waiting for someone to wake them up, but no one came to wake them up. Oh, so there's, I don't know why, something about this. Maybe I'll look into this more. Sorry, guys. Sometimes I'm just floating around trying to figure it out myself. Twin pyramids discovered on Mars, right? We'll never get the truth there unless you know, right? But these guys were talking, it was like scientists, and they were talking about how what creates human life on Earth, you know what I mean? And they were saying something that actually had some merit first, and they were talking about probably that we were on Mars first, or we evolved from Mars or something. But let's see, he's saying that Earth came from somewhere else, right? And this other video I watched talked about how humans are so different. We get like sunburned and we get sickly, and like we're just not built, like our necks don't necessarily look like they were created for the gravity of this planet. And basically um it's this guy was talking about how um that we come from something else, right? There's like this, the last universal common ancestor. It's an organism from which all life on Earth evolved from, in this theory, right? That is like this common ancestor theory. But um so this guy, what he said was interesting. It's spreading all across the universe, and we get caught, and we caught it too. It didn't start here. So it's the idea that human life like caught somewhere. But then if you go down this, I'm not sure has merit, because I feel like the Anunnaki are probably someone that crafted us in a lab, and that has more accuracy. And like I said, if you watch that video, Anunnaki off of the Y files that really helps explain that the Anunnaki perspective. So anyway, if folks are using Tesla equipment that they snatched from Tesla to do electromagnetic war that we're not even aware that is happening because it's on such low level frequency, right? Then a mysterious dent that is currently being created, I think could, and I'd like folks to look into that for research to see if that dent could potentially be caused from like Tesla technology that folks are using, because that's concerning to me if they're poking holes in the magnetic field. I think they may be doing that is what I'm getting told a sense of. So we're already losing our magnetic field. I do think a dramatic pole shift is going to happen, and that Joe Rogan and Musk have referenced that. It's the Adam and Eve pole shift theory, if you want to go ahead and research. So Mars most likely lost its atmosphere, right? I don't know if we're going to lose our atmosphere anytime soon, but they're definitely messing with something, including our magnetic field. So the thing about the pole shift is that you find these mammoths, right? And they're frozen in mid-meal, right? They're still eating, right? So the pole shift theory says everything like the pyramids and the Sphinx are older. You know how Graham Hancock believes the Sphinx has like marks on it from water and not from sand, like because it was like a marshy area with a lot of water going on. So it was a wet and rainy climate at some point in human history. And if you line up the pyramids, they line up with a time in history that corresponds with the planets being in a position to the stars that correlate with the pyramids and their location. But that would make it much older than we are currently told it is. But I think this dramatic pole shift happened, and that's what the elites are now preparing for with their bunkers. So you have to consider that while all this stuff is happening, like Diddy and Kate Gate and whatever, like the folks that are getting exposed for being Satanists and killing chickens and raping babies and stuff. Well, now there's also this other thing going on that they know about. They probably know about and got a bunker under the Denver airport, right? And this is an indication when we look at the coral reefs historically, they exist on the equator. And right now we see them like all over the world because there's been so many pole shifts, right? So this really shows you also the dramaticness of some of those pole shifts that are disastrous. So the idea, and this is this book on the left here, if you check it out, it's like a book that was like, oh, it dumbed down by the CIA. So you're getting a version that has been very watered down, but that's like that Adam and Eve book by Chan, Chan. And he was a psychic spy dealing with UFOs, right? So interesting stuff with him if you read it, but basically, things are going to be crazy. And um, he talks about it a lot in his book. So I just encourage you to check out his book because you can find it online. Again, this will be probably the censored version, but it's something. All right. So what is fascinating here, and I think it might be hard for some of you to understand, but when the poles flip like that, they flip real quick, right? And so when they flip, something happened before because this happened, this geomagnetic storm that happened in like 1859, it mimicked what would happen when the poles shift. And the folks that were operating the whatever it's called, the teleoperators or whatever, the telegraph operators, they were saying that they were still able to send messages even when they weren't connected to the electricity, which means, like, just to put it plainly, there was enough electricity in the instrument or in the air that they were able to still communicate, right? So if you had an extended state like that, the things that have been, if you research it, that they have said could be possible with all of that electrons floating freely, like in a different state of matter. That means you might be able to walk into a wall, right, and maintain yourself, and then walk out and separate from other objects in kind of a more blobby fashion. It would mean being able to use your cell phone, but with no electricity, no nothing. Like just think about that for these operators for the electromagnetic field. For them, it made itself available so that they were still able to do their telegraphing, right? So they're still sending messages, but the power source has been turned off. So how that's been explained to me is during that state, which could be the 6 to 7 days, and then you rest on the seventh day, kind of a biblical kind of thing, or like however it goes, however long we're in this state, right? That would happen when the poles flipped in a dramatic fashion. You may be in a state where you can walk through walls, right? You can do things that are insane because you're in a different state. Matter is in a different state, right? So it's just a very interesting thing to like dig into, but it just kind of lends itself. It's called the Carrington event. This is an example of a powerful geomagnetic storm, but just makes you think about like magic and like how there's ways to harness things that probably you would think would look like magic but like aren't magic, and maybe there is magic out there but it's not like the magic we would think it is really, but able to harness nature and manipulate matter. Does that make sense? We would expect ETs to have technology like that. So this was Dolores Cannon's map that showed what she thought was going to be possible for folks and where they would be living right around that time with such little land left, and where they would be surviving. So anyway, just want to make sure you understand. So America could replace Atlantis in legends of lost civilizations. Your government censors the evidence to make sure you'll keep working and funding their preparations until it happens. The evidence exists. So they're saying everyone's duped. This is the map that I said resonates for me. This is supposedly Edgar Casey's doomsday map, but I think this is just something that someone like that knew him channeled. Excuse me. All right, but you can see like where the elite might be going, right? Sounds like to the Rockies, right? And that they have built something under the Denver airport, right? And it probably goes down to Area 51, and there's like an underground city, and like they'll be fine. But one thought is don't worry so much about the nuclear fallout, because I just think that doesn't come up as the biggest concern. Doesn't mean you shouldn't have something to protect against radiation, but I think you might survive without a bunch of radioactive protection potentially, depending on where you are, right? So what was this? This was something about, yep, NORAD. So they created these tunnels. That's what I get told, 90 miles south of the airport. Yeah, that's such a high spot. If you look at like this lady overlaid the map, Peggy Bolton, she overlaid the map of like Edgar Casey's doomsday map with the where Gates bought land, and it all lines up. So check that out. Those are the places that he owned, which showed that he's seeing those spots as likely to survive when he comes out of his bunker. All right. And then we have this thing, this apocalyptic thing, and it's interesting, right? Because these cicadas that are coming out, well, supposedly there's the technology to make it so there's like military stuff that comes out, or a toxin that comes out, or something. And it's interesting that they are targeting all these states for this whole like locust infection. So I don't know, but I would keep an eye on those states and see what's going to happen in those states as far as like crops and things like that. Are they targeting the crops and then he's going to buy up the land? Are they going to bankrupt those farmers and then buy up the land? Like what is going on with what they're doing with that, right? So here's the last thing I wanted to point out. This is my little homework section. What they're saying is that those electromagnetic low frequencies that Tesla had the technology to create that has been stolen by Russia and whoever killed Tesla or whoever's got it, right? They can use those like all the time to create diarrhea, anxiety, depression, apathy, mind control, like whatever. So just keep your eyes out for things related to woodpecker. That was like the radio signal that has been coming over since the 70s to hit the United States from Russia, is my understanding, but correct me if I'm wrong. And so that's that low pulse like radiation to create depression, anxiety, diarrhea, apathy, mind control, I don't know, obesity, like stupidity, I don't know, but been hit with something called woodpecker. And then Tesla's technology is what makes that possible, right? Then Tesla's technology also has to do with what they're doing, I think, with the electromagnetic sphere or what have you, the protection of the electromagnetic barrier, right? And the hole in that right now, I think might be having to do with using Tesla technology. The ELF is again that woodpecker stuff, the electromagnetic low frequency stuff. And then the harp stuff, I think has to do also with the Tesla stuff, right? So I think it's a lot to take on, but I would encourage folks to look at that Anunnaki video from the Y files. I think it explains that we are the creation in a lab, but we do have, I believe, some capacity to rule ourselves. And then you have to understand we are also being hit potentially with something like those woodpecker signals. So, it's just like a crazy time. And as far as like the Princess Kate stuff, I know some of you want to know, but like all I can say is I'm like stupefied why the public is not doing nothing about a woman and her children missing since December. And somehow that's the match, right? Like that's the match that's going to get lit. If it gets lit, then I think good things will happen if we can get people to wake up. So I'm just like waiting for people to wake up. But I think that's the moment you realize like your rulers have failed you, like your monarchy is not there to protect you. They are there to lie to you. And then you wake up, right? So that lights a match. All right, folks. Until next time, take care of yourselves and stay good to one another. The end.